I thank the Speaker, and I want to start by saluting our distinguished chairman. Thank you so much to our chairman for bringing this bill to the floor and for managing it today. He's just returned from an arduous trip. I've been on that trip. I know how tiring it can be and frankly, even what some personal danger one puts oneself in that trip. And I salute the chairman for his stamina and his commitment to American foreign policy being here on the floor today. So I thank him and salute him and his able staff. I also, of course, want to thank my co-chair of the Georgia caucus and co-author of H.R. 598, the Georgia Support Act, Mr. Kinzinger, who's been a wonderful partner and always willing to look at an issue thoughtfully and put himself sometimes at political risk in showing intestinal fortitude, and we salute you too, Mr. Kinzinger. This legislation asserts the United States' continued support for the independence and sovereignty of Georgia. It supports Georgia's continued democratic development, including free and fair elections, and affirms U.S. opposition to Russian aggression in the region, which is not, as has been noted, theoretical. Russian troops occupy Abkhazia and Ossetia in Georgia. Russia has fomented unrest, aided separatist movements, and committed serious human rights violations, including ongoing detentions and killings. Russian forces continue to harass civilian communities along the administrative borderline and impede the right of the return of internally displaced persons, even moving that administrative boundary line arbitrarily. Just a few weeks ago, tensions flared over a reported buildup of military equipment and personnel near the ABL, the administrative borderline, in Russian-occupied South Ossetia. H.R. 598 bolsters Georgia's territorial integrity by authorizing sanctions against those responsible for or complicit in human rights violations in these occupied territories. As chairman of the U.S. delegation to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, I'm very pleased that the Georgia Support Act recognizes that Georgia has been a long-standing NATO aspirant country and a contributor to NATO's troop levels. I've traveled to Georgia 3 times in the last 3 years, including for the spring meeting of NATO's Parliamentary Assembly, and I believe that Georgia is a key partner for NATO's security. This act builds on previous efforts that Congress has undertaken to support Georgia's territorial integrity. In the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, CATSA, PL 115-44, we enshrined a non-recognition policy for Russia's illegal occupation of Georgian territory. In the 114th Congress, the House passed H.R. 660, which Judge Poe and I introduced to express support for Georgia's full territorial integrity. The resolution was a clear and unequivocal statement in support of sovereign territory of Georgia and reiterated the longstanding policy of the United States not to recognize territorial changes effected by force, as dictated by the Stimson Doctrine going back to 1932, authored by then Secretary of State Henry Stimson. As the House of Representatives passed the Crimea Annexation Non-Recognition Act, H.R. 596, earlier this year, the Georgia Support Act is another clear and unequivocal statement by this Congress on the issue of territorial sovereignty. This act expresses Congress's support for the vital U.S.-Georgia partnership, which is a strategically important relationship in a very critical part of the world. I urge my colleagues to adopt this legislation, and again, I thank the chairman for his distinguished leadership on this issue and my partner, Mr. Kinzinger. I yield back.